At Fairweathers we love lavender, and as well as agapanthus, it's one of our specialities. I want to help you with some advice about how to choose the right lavender for your garden, and also some tips as to how to give you ideas as how to look after them. In terms of choosing, there are three main groups of lavender that you need to consider. The first is this traditional English lavender. So this is Lavender angustifolia, and this form is hidcoat. Lovely dark purple. All lavenders have a fragrance, but the angustifolias probably have the best quality, and the flowers are used for the highest quality cosmetics. All lavenders attract bees, but if you're looking for a short, compact hedge, then angustifolia is hardy and will provide you with beautiful flowers in June every year. You can see the spikes of this lavender are relatively short compared to this one, which I've got here, which is called Lavendin. And this is a later flowering form. It has a taller spike, also has a flower head that's a bit pointed. And this is the form that is grown in rows in the south of France. It has also got good scent, but the quality of the scent is not quite as good as the angustifolia. This is still a good hardy form. And then the third group of plants are these, what are called French lavenders, or Lavender stoachus, which are plants that have got these lovely little airy sterile bracts. Now this group of plants are not so hardy, so either need to be grown in more sheltered parts of the garden or moved inside during the winter. All lavenders love full sun, and they also love free draining soil, so making sure that you choose their right position is going to be important in terms of success. If your soil is at all heavy, then it's good to add some grit to open it up so that they don't sit wet in the winter. People often ask about spacing. So if we're talking about an angustifolia, so this again is Lavender hidcoat, if you want to plant a hedge of this, I would recommend planting this at 40 centimeters apart. If you're planting the larger, more spreading Lavendin or intermediate lavender, then I'd plant them at 45 centimeters apart. The plants that we supply are in 9 centimeter pots, and these can be planted out straight away into the garden, or can be potted up into a bigger pot to grow on if you wish. This plant's got lovely fresh new foliage. What you will find is plants dispatched early in the spring sometimes have slightly woodier foliage because they've been grown through winter months, but that's quite normal. Plants of lavender generally don't need feeding. They're not hungry feeders, and indeed if you do feed them, it'll make them rather lanky and lush. So if you want flowers, treat them mean. Now the other most important thing to know about lavenders is to do with pruning, and it's really important that pruning is done immediately after a plant has finished flowering. So here we are in June, and this plant is now about to come into full bloom, but I'd expect by mid-August at the latest that I'm going to be pruning it. And it's important to prune it low into the foliage, always leaving 2 or 3 sets of leaves below where you prune it, but you want to be really quite cruel and cut it hard back to make sure that you're going to land up with a nice mound of foliage during the winter. So you can see there I've cut it leaving 2 or 3 sets of leaves below my cut. If your lavender's got really woody, you cannot cut into the wood. You need to make sure it's got 2 or 3 sets of leaves below where you've cut. Now this pruning technique is true for angustifolias and intermedias, but if we're looking at the pruning on the French lavenders, then that's slightly different because they flower over a longer period of time. And you can see here we've got plants in full flower, but we've also got plants which are just flowers which are just forming in buds. So here, when you've got a flower that's gone over, you would ideally just snip them off to encourage the next ones coming along. If you've had a big flush of flowers and you want to tidy it up, you could just trim over the whole plant and it will rebloom. But it's best to pick and choose if you can. So that's a few tips on lavender care. If you want advice about choosing the right lavender, depending on the colour and the height you want, if you visit our website, there's a very useful chart for you to be able to have a look and decide what's going to be best for your garden. Good luck with your lavenders.